Well, thank you. That was so kind of you, Cat. Is that Laney or is that who is that rubbed up against me? Which one? Yeah, you're gonna smell. You're gonna smell a little of that. How much juice is on the phone? Not really a good day for that. Dry lips, y'all. Just does it. Rocky, thank you for joining me. Well, I'm gonna get into it, man. So this is the Chocolate Mountain Show. Chocolate Mountain Show. I am your host. Eight Wind is timeless. It all started with a gentle sadness. I am the holder of the continuous ball game of the Hero Twins. I am your galactic daddy-o sitting on my terrace pyramid galactic patio, coming to you from the center sun of the center of the universe. Welcome one, welcome all. What's happening? What you got? The elder on the inside. Let me tell you. You talking about code? Look at that there. That says where'd it go? See if I can get it in there. -8. -8. With a wind chill factor of 18. Tomorrow it's going to be a high of 0. Today, I mean Saturday. Tomorrow or Sunday, it's going to be a low of -24. So they telling mugs, don't go out if you don't have to. Stay in, young man. Wind chill advisory remains in effect from midnight tonight until noon Saturday. Wind chill watch remains in effect from Saturday evening through Monday morning. Yeah, it ain't playing out there. It is not playing. That's why it's better to be up in here. Well, thank you. Thank you. This is Lurking Class. This is his artwork, Lurking Class. I found your new channel yesterday. Well, thank you, Jay. Those are very kind words. Hey, Edwin or Edward, thank you. I lived in Wisconsin 10 years. I understand that very yeah. Because I remember when the actor faked his heart attack in Shy. It'll make you do that. Like Richard Pryor said, it'll make prejudiced people not be prejudiced. Be walking in the code. I'll be prejudiced tomorrow. That's what Richard Pryor said. He's like, I'll be prejudiced tomorrow. Too cold to even be prejudiced. But what's funny is I went out to the mall today and get my walking in and stuff, and had to get a couple things, trying to see about some hats and some other products. And you get in the mall, I'm wearing like a sweatshirt under my coat, but I got that Columbia, and it's the little thin insulated coat. You sweat easy. You get to walk and you sweat, and then you go outside and it's like the sweat will create ice. It's like even though sweat has salt, it's like ice will start creating where the sweat was when you go outside. So, and let me show y'all. This is the kind of stuff they wanted to give me. This is my Thanos glove. See, I'm Thanos tonight. They giving me this Thanos stuff. My son came in and laughed at me. He said, "Why are you wearing a cast?" I'm like, "I'm not wearing a cast. I'm wearing a brace." It's like the same thing. So this is what they gave me and told me they want me to wear. Now, let's be honest. Do you think I can go out in public with this shit? Where I'm going to go outside with this? Get up, beat up easy. I mean, I still could shoot somebody, but I mean, still. Couldn't shoot 2 people. They're like, see if it makes you feel better. Like, wearing a cast makes you feel better. Imagine being home. Oh, well, this is what they did last year. Right now, it's still people living out in tents. Now, I don't know if they got them all out of the park, but the last word was they still in the parks. Last year, they built 3 temporary little compounds and put space heaters, like big space heaters in there for them, and got everybody off the street. But far as I knew, at Powderhorn Park, maybe it was still people living in tents. I don't know how you would do it tonight unless you had some kind of electricity and space heater. Now, let me tell you about now out on this lake. If you have a little place, it's little ice houses you can get that cost 10, 20 grand. And you can plug in generators. They got full heaters. You can live out there on the ice. And there's no permits or anything required. You just take whatever it's like you can pull up in front of somebody's house, as long as it's you on the ice, you can be out there. I mean, I guess it'd be a hell of a way to harass somebody, but you can be anywhere out on the ice. There's nobody that owns the space. You can go anywhere out there, but you could live out there. You got a generator and they got these so nice where you could live. You know, when you ice fish, you open the floor up. So you have a floor, but there's little pockets where they can open it up. So, let's do a commercial. Sierra Nevada Wonderland, 7.5 alcohol. Thank you, Summit Sierra Nevada Wonderland, for making me funky. This is an IPA, but it's probably the best non-bitter IPAs. I mean, to get strong beer, you pretty much got to get IPAs now. It's just that's what they do. However, this is not as bitter. And I'm doing again just the acid blonde cigar to chew on. So yeah, it would be deadly. Like I was saying last night with that cat, they found a cat just taking his last step. He was like, oh, and the cat got frozen. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about tonight. Did anybody see the Fred Hampton movie? Oh, and I didn't bring the damn book. I went in the bedroom and grabbed I wanted to bring, there's a book called The Murder of Fred Hampton. But did anybody see the movie tonight? So I'm going to do a little breakdown of the movie. Man, I meant to bring the book. I don't think I have it in this bookshelf. I think it's in my bedroom. Finally watched it. Only watched it once so far. But took a couple pages of notes, so I will start. I don't want to spoil anybody. So if there's anybody that doesn't want to be spoiled, please, you might want to tune off for about 10 minutes. It's not going to take me long. So, I hate I didn't bring the book out here. Dang. Give you a little background. Fred started off with NAACP. There's a lot of those dudes did. A lot of those guys started in other programs. I mean, Stokely Carmichael was Boulay, SNCC, later became a Panther. H. Rap Brown started off as NAACP. So a lot of these Panthers was in these other things. Fred was no different. Fred, the first thing he did, again, they show this in the Panther movie, which was really happened in Chicago. They show the Panthers they show the California Panthers getting a light change where a child's getting killed, where in fact, that was actually in Chicago, where Fred and his actions on the west side of Chicago getting a light put because a child got killed riding a bike. It's 9 degrees here in Chicago. One of the only benefits of these masks is cold protection. All biz. Yeah. Oh, exactly. My best friend and I was saying the same thing. I was telling him, and we was like almost saying the same thing as we was walking outside. We noticed to keep the mask, especially my plastic mask. It really just blocks all that hawk. When my car was down and I walked around the corner to the store, it was the same way. I came out the store and I was like, shoot, I'm not going to take this mask off. This is nice. It blocks all that. because this is what it attacks. It attacks this meat right here, the first thing that gets cold. So it is, you don't want to mess around out there. It's really one of them days. And again, it's people at the stores, people is out. I went several stores and there's people out everywhere. So, but you just don't want to get caught unnecessarily out late. So as the Panthers spread around the country, of course, Chicago, Illinois, East Coast, Detroit had one. I know there was several in North Carolina. I know Winston-Salem had one for sure because I visited that one in 70 or 71, because I know the one in Kalamazoo closed in 72, maybe 73. So when maybe even earlier, because I know when I first went to North Carolina, I was surprised the Panther office was still open. I got a couple posters, and my father's ex took me downtown. She said, "Oh, you want to go see the Panthers office?" I was like, "It's still a Panthers office?" And they actually in maybe 70, 71, maybe even late as 72, wherever I was in fifth grade, we went to the Panthers office. So the snitch, Willie O'Keefe. And I would recommend, if you ever really want to get a little taste of Fred Hampton's book, which is called The Assassination of Fred Hampton. A couple things about the author, and again, excuse me, the book is in the other room, and I meant to pick it up. In some ways, I feel, because the author did know Fred, but that, again, that is these Jewish faith cats in the hood representing people. And in some ways, I almost felt it was a little bit of a handler, a little bit. It's like, and then I'm going to jump to the end about the lawyer that sued. It was the longest federal civil case ever. Took 12 years of them suing the state of Illinois and individually the prosecutor as well. When it came down to real money, again, the family, I think the movie said 1.8. The actual numbers was the lawyers got 400,000. Fred's family got about 200 and some thousand, maybe 250,000. Mark Clark's family got about the same. So do you see, most of the money went to the lawyers. But I just reading the book, it just made me feel that the lawyers was handlers too. Again, these are Jewish faith people in the hood. So, and they give all their cover stories, but it sounds like a cover story. So it's a good book. It's actually took me a minute to get that book. I had to order it. None of the bookstores, when it first came out years ago, I tried to get it from Barnes and Nobles, and they didn't have it. So I finally ordered a used copy. Good read, short read. So Willie O'Keefe is the main snitch. Willie O'Keefe, he was running a scam, trying to say, and then you can just see this shit's made up. Like, he could go into a bar at night and flash an FBI badge, and because he got a Humphrey Bogart hat and coat, nobody would pay attention. And he's able to steal cars like this. So this is how he gets caught. And what it reminds you of, when he gets caught, remember, DMX got caught on a plane with some fake badges, said he was FBI. If y'all remember that. And as I was thinking to myself, I'm like, that's a federal charge right there. Stealing cars is a state charge. Showing the FBI badge, that's a federal charge. And he gave the bank, if you rob a bank, it's generally 5 years federal. So that's what he was looking at. And they tell you that's why he becomes a snitch, not to go to jail federally for impersonating an FBI agent. One other thing you see, and Elaine Brown's book, kind of, A Taste of Power, kind of gives you this, and Elaine Brown's dishonest in her book, but I'll get to that later. So it shows the Panthers papers. One thing, if you look at finance, they were making, again, I think Elaine Brown's book, I don't know if Fred's book talks about the numbers, but Elaine Brown's book does, and maybe it's another book I had, but they made quite a revenue off the individual papers. They weren't doing it the same way the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam has always made their people buy papers And if you don't sell the papers, you don't make a profit. If you sell all of them, whatever, you get a little profit. But Panthers paper was set up a little different. It was a true paperboy kind of thing. And they made a lot of income off their paper. They show that in the very beginning. Another thing that doesn't get a lot of play, again, is the social programs. The two lasting things that the Panthers did is the breakfast programs, that's done everywhere. The breakfast programs are all around the country now. WIC is another thing that they had a help in creating and practice doing. That's all around the country now. The third thing they also did, and this didn't last, but they was giving free health clinics and health care. And so this was a real thing. And I don't think people understand, unless you lived back then and was a child and was just getting the food, because there was a study showing that hunger was the main thing that stopped children from learning. Children would go to school hungry and they couldn't learn just because they were hungry. They found out once the children had lunch, they tended to do better in school. And so the Panthers were one of the first to kind of recognize this and say, we'll feed our children. And what the Panthers did all across the country is they went to the community. It almost became like a food shelf. They were going, finding the old food they were giving away. And it's one of, I'll say, out of all the things they did continuously, that was something practiced in almost all the Panther programs, or all the different branches. They were that, and that's the lasting effect. Is the breakfast program is the lasting effect of the Panthers. So this was, if anyone watched the old show from the guy from Doing the Right Thing, the light-skinned brother, that guy does a thing on Huey Newton. And what he does is saying J. Edgar Hoover said that one of the biggest threats in the country was grits, the breakfast program, the social programs. They did get embarrassed by this. And this was, in the 70s was before you had millionaire doctors. They were doing well, but to be really millionaire doctors, you just didn't. It's not like today. So who's doing this? And so this was their main threat, really, was these kind of programs. And I guess in a way it's communism. In a way, you have the neighborhood helping take care of everyone. You get everyone in the neighborhood to pitch in. But when you do that, again, you have a pride in your neighborhood. It's like what I did today. Today was even though it was cold today was the day I went to the food banks. I filled up the back. I picked up everybody's orders and I went and dropped them off. Despite how cold it was, I know people need this food. And so that still goes on today, where communities help people in the community. And what's sad is some food banks are basically only if you live in that area. Only if you live in that area. I deal with another church that's up the road from me. It's whoever. They help whoever. And the other place I went today, they do the same thing. They help whoever. You make the orders, you can pick it up, or you can make the orders and have people like me take it to them. This is one of the lasting effects. Fred was getting arrested so much that he stopped driving. That's how Willie O'Keefe joins the Panthers. The FBI agents ask him how he can get close a car. Fred quit driving because he was getting harassed. One thing that was interesting that Fred said that also, and I didn't really know this, but again, Fred was from the west side of Chicago. And Fred made a reference to the boys club. And I never knew that before, that they were actually doing work. He was saying something about the west side of the boys club. So that was something new to me. I did not know that they were involved with the boys club, but that's kind of outstanding. Mm. Another thing that Fred did, Fred started the idea of the Rainbow Coalition. Jesse Jackson copied this idea and called it Operation Breadbasket. But Jesse Jackson stole that. And what Fred did is Fred went to he went to the Crowns, the Blackstone Rangers. He went to the Chicanos, and he went to, I guess you'd call them, Patriots. So he had all these different groups coming together in Chicago that were being repressed by Mayor Daley's machine. Again, Daley controlled Chicago for, hell, one of his sons was just mayor a few years ago before they put the Mossad dude in Chicago. Before he was put in, it was another Daley. I mean, it was a Daley in the 2000s still holding office in Chicago. So this was his father. So what he did was unifying the gangs, getting them into the umbrella of the Rainbow Coalition. As I mentioned, Jesse Jackson copied it. Jesse Jackson even copied the breakfast program. Again, Operation Breadbasket. He copied that and tried to take credit, and knowing Jesse Jackson was now, one thing I saw that they copied. I don't find this in the book, and just looking up research about Fred, I never found this, but there's a scene in the movie where it's a direct copy of Elaine Brown's book when she lies about Bunchy Carter joining the Panthers. If you read A Taste of Power, Elaine Brown says that she was a member already when Bunchy Carter comes in and brings all his people into an auditorium. They copy this where the Panthers go into an auditorium. It's a direct copy of that scene out of Elaine Bryant's book. So again, easy to point out. But this is where the snitch gets called out and nobody really pays attention. He's called out by one of these Crown people, calls him out because those are the people that the car he stole got caught. And the guy gets checked for talking out of line. Again, that's unrealistic. If he would have said, hey, because again, he ain't gonna just yell out. He'd be like, hey, this is that's how you would do it. You wouldn't just blab it out, be like, they dealing with a snitch. You better tell them if they don't know. So the snitch gets away even longer. So I wanted to give that out. So I wanted to give that part out. They say another thing. Okay, this makes sense to me. They said something I had never heard before. So two Jewish faith dudes and this dude named Cheney that was living in Mississippi, they got murdered by the Klan, and they got buried under they were doing construction. They got buried. Construction of a bridge or viaduct, something, and they got buried under this, and then they had an informant that told them where they were. But it says that Cheney was actually castrated. I had never heard that before. Again, you can look up Cheney's name of the 3 voting rights people. But the FBI agent says that. I had never heard that Cheney had got castrated. Again, there's several movies on this, and they just show him getting shot. They get into CONTELPRO. The Crown gang reads a letter, and the letter is, again, CONTELPRO program. It was put into Crown's territory and given propaganda. I'm going to say this cannot be overestimated how much this was done. Just like we had the East Coast rappers mad at the West Coast rappers, they just did the same thing with the Panthers. One thing Fred and them and the New York people, I think they saw that Newton and them was agents. I really do. There was always a friction between them where they really weren't trusting them. But there was a lot of CONTELPRO going on, letters sent to both, not, from the FBI pushing this misinformation, not trusting. They show Fred Hampton's mother getting harassing phone calls. This was all under CONTELPRO. But you'll see where they come up with a letter and he reads it, and Fred says that's the same thing they was doing to Malcolm and Martin. And again, they were doing this. And what Malcolm didn't understand is how much of an agent the people he was working for were. Elijah Muhammad, and he never understood that. He did later, but at one point in his life. So he's recognized. The Panthers supposedly like wondered, and they asked him. They put the pinch on him, and they're like, "Well, how did you steal this car?" So he hot wires. It's bullshit. He was called out, and they would have probably did something to him. One thing that was interesting too that you see later is an agent kills a regular Panther. I mean, tortured and killed this person. I had never heard this story before. I don't know if it's true, but the FBI agent, instead of him being called out, they blamed another dude. They tortured the guy and then kill him. And the FBI agent blames other people, but it was the FBI agent that did it. And not only that, as him getting away and on the lam, he was going to the other agents, other Panther offices, and getting them raided because they were saying harboring a fugitive, even though the fugitive was a FBI informant. So all under COINTELPRO. See, they cause a problem, and then they try to use the law. They use the law to break the law, and then they try to use the law to arrest people. Now, Fred says, again, you've heard, I don't know if you listen to his tape, he says, "I am a revolutionary." Now, those who know Jesse Jackson says, "I am somebody. I may be poor." I mean, again, copying Fred's cadence and everything. Not only do the Rainbow Coalition he copied, but he copies this saying. And this was, if you saw Jesse in the 70s, this is the first thing. If he came into a group of children or anybody, that's how he would lead. "I am somebody." He changed Fred's thing. "I am a revolutionary." Now, one thing, and this goes into Zach Hubbard's work, was the shooting fake. Fred is taken off the street. Now, the full story, they don't really get into the story, but the full story of how they railroaded Fred was, they claim that Fred jumped into an ice cream truck, pushed out the people, and stole the ice cream out of the truck, giving it to people, and got convicted. It was proven that Fred was nowhere there, and he still got convicted by all white, all European jury. And he ends up getting 5 years from this. So Fred was taken off the street. Now, I say it's like Zach Hubbard. When Zach breaks down all the numbers, it pretty much looks like it goes by the numbers. And a lot of times when we see all the numbers matching up, it means it could have been a staged event. I don't think so. I've been in the house where the shooting is taking place. They do a very good job of that. But he's taken off the street just like Huey Newton was taken off the street. And it almost kills the Panther program. Now, what you have to remember is Fred's taken off the street. Bobby Rush still there. And I'll say this about Bobby Rush. Fred was a sacrifice for Bobby Rush and Obama. I didn't get the Obama thing until Obama became president because it's that same side of town. Bobby Rush was a senator. Then Bobby Rush lost to Obama. Then Bobby Rush comes in there as a congressman. Remember, he wrote the 666. Ain't heard nothing from Bobby Rush. So another part they show, again, as I was saying, the snitch was going around killing people, blaming other people of being snitches. But one thing you have to look at is when you have someone that's overly, well, one thing they show in the movie is just like we had Johnny Chu, who was the person that gave the guns to the Panthers in LA. We see the same thing with this Willie O'Keefe. You can look on YouTube and find where Fred and him, a night or two before he got killed, all of them is holding shotguns and pistols. Again, defensive weapons, nothing offensive. And so the FBI, my point is the snitches are usually the most dramatic. Again, the snitch cried the loudest at Fred's funeral. The snitch wanted to go after people the quickest. Again, he supplies the gun. He wants to go after people, wants to just fight people. Now, there's a couple other things that I was looking, I still didn't find them. They show where some Panthers had shootouts in Chicago with people. I've never come across that information. Just like we know the shootouts they showed in the other Panther movie was a lie, I wonder about these scenarios. I have never found the information where that Panther office on the west side of Chicago got into shootouts. I know the cops had raided it several times and set it on fire. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't come across that. It's not in Fred's book that they had shootouts. They show several shootouts. Again, in the original Panther movie, the same scenario of lies is put up. Maybe I just didn't study enough, but I've never come across that. But they show that. And so, again, this is one way you look at informants. Again, if you watch the Chicago 7 trial, you see all the informants, how they join everything. The same thing they did here in Minneapolis. One of the police officers from St. Paul got busted for being an Action Auto dude that broke the glass at Action Auto. One woman saw him and said, "That's my ex." Plastered his picture all over. Yeah, they can't really deny it, didn't arrest anybody, but we know how they do it because they know when it's organic like that, they have to jump in. I'm sure they were sitting on the verge, and when they saw this, they knew the response because this is a test area. All the other deaths, Castile, Young, these were test areas to see what people were going to do. When Young got killed, again, they shut down the street the 4th precinct was on, which was a mistake. What they should have done is shut down the whole north side and stopped all business from coming in instead of sitting in the front of a police precinct. They show where the informant started a shooting. That's what they show. The informant goes on the roof and stood the informant busting at the pigs. And that was one thing that bothered them. When I was a child, they were called pigs. I don't think that went away until the 80s. Again, they got rid of black and white cars because black and white cars had to do with police suppression, untrusting the police. So from 80 to 2000 and something, they quit having black and whites because it was a bad reputation. It went into cops being crooked, cops suppressing people. And they changed cars. They changed colors. They're black and white. Some are now. But for a long time, they weren't. They got rid of that. As a matter of fact, when I was a cop in 89 to 91, 92, we didn't have black cars. Let me even go further. There were fake cops buying the old cop cars, stopping people. So when I was those 3-4 years when I was a cop, you did not have to stop for an unmarked car because there was an unmarked car that raped a couple women, stopped them, raped them. And so there for a period, you didn't even have to stop if the car was unmarked. Go to 2008, 2005, 2006. They do that shit now. But for a long time in Michigan, it was illegal. You didn't have to stop if they weren't marked. They showed the Chicago police going into the Panther office and setting it on fire. Now, arson is illegal. But again, they're working for John Daly. You had occupying force. You had mostly Europeans policing the hood, which a lot we see today. That's something they're supposed to change here, and it should be changed all over America. If you don't live there, you shouldn't police there. That's just common sense. That's just fairness. Because if you don't live there, you have no stake. I know. I did not live when I was with my last police position. I would have never moved to that little town. I had no stake there. I didn't care. I only cared about it that he gave me a check. I'd go do my job. Once I was off, I didn't give a fuck about that place. It mentions the trial. Again, I talk about the rush up of Bobby Rush. One thing noticeable before the shootout, we know Bobby Rush was in the house. Apparently, Willie O'Keefe supposedly gave Fred something and Fred didn't come out of it. But Bobby Rush was there too early in the day. And that's common knowledge. Makes you wonder. And that kind of shows the sacrifice. They try to give him a pass by saying, Fred, I'm going home to be with my family. They're trying to give him a pass. But what you have to look at, what the mafia already says is, when somebody dies, look who benefits. Bobby Rush benefited. Bobby Rush and Jesse Jackson benefited, just as Jesse Jackson benefited from whatever happened to King. Remember, Jesse Jackson puts his hand in the supposed blood that might not even been blood and wipes it on his shirt. And look who they interview. Jesse Jackson doesn't go to the hospital with his friend. He goes to the front of the hospital and starts interviewing. Not going in there to see how his friend's doing. No, he goes to the hospital with the blood rubbed on his shirt, which Andy Young says the same thing. Andy Young acts now like it's some spiritual shit. I would have fired on him. Like, the fuck is you doing? So they showed J. Edgar Hoover, Charlie Sheen's daddy, the older Sheen. Is he Esteban? No. What's the daddy's name? Is it Charlie Sheen? What's his daddy's name? Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen plays J. Edgar Hoover. And my problem is, again, I give the brother a good job, but number one, no, I better not say that. He's too short. Fred was taller. I'm not going to say that. I want to say it, but it's Fred was a little darker than me. I'll just say that. And that's why I call it blackface. Any face doesn't do, just as we had with Harriet Tubman. Any face dark doesn't do. That's why I call it blackface, because that's how they look at it. They think any dark color is okay. Doesn't matter. If you look at One Night in Miami, they pick a cat that's shorter than the cat who play Ali. Again, Ali 6'2.5", Malcolm 6'4". When you don't have Malcolm 6'4", you take his power away. Now, the guy did a good job on Fred's inferences, his tone, his speech pattern. He did a good job. But again, why is an African representing the American Negro, the American Indian? Why? Why? You telling me out of all the people in the country, only African, again, that's blackface. Shouldn't just accept any blackface. You can't tell me that there was 0 American actors that could do that. I don't believe it. Oh, and J. Edgar Hoover was a Negro. Matter of fact, if you got in contact with his family and was down there in Mississippi sniffing around, you're more likely was going to get killed. His family was under strict orders. Don't tell. But this dude was mixed. I don't even know if he was mixed. If you look at the Hoovers, I don't even think he was mixed. He was just a light-skinned dude that passed. And that is why Hoover was so mad when they picked King. And King won the Nobel Peace Prize, because Hoover was like, wait a minute. This dude is an agent too. We've had a file on him since he was a little boy. Why didn't you give it to me? I've been betraying my people. And we know there are pictures. The mafia held pictures of Hoover cross-dressing. Hoover hired his lover, Tolson. These lovers got to work together for almost 50 years. That's a hell of a lick. You can run a government agency and you can make your lover the number 2 man. That's a lick. That is a lick. Another thing you see is they show the office after it's blowed up. Supposedly Willie O'Keefe helped in fixing the offices back up, getting the neighborhood came in and pinched in and put the Panthers offices back the way they were. One thing they highlight is they highlight the poster of Huey Newton with the gun and the spear. Again, taking you away from the land. Taking you away from the land. It's a wicker chair that again was looked at as African. I think there's a African mask instead of having the Omen jade mask, but it's that back to Africa. But one thing you have to know about this picture was her name. I might be wrong with her name, but I thought her name was Sandra Gardner. She was playing the Moor. If you guys remember on Facebook Live or either YouTube, she was playing the Moor the first times, getting stopped with the fake license plate because she's a Moor, trying to drive with the fake Moor license plate and a paper plate at that, I think. She had several run-ins, but the final run-in before she got shot or anything is the husband runs away with his children with her, again, showing the man being a coward. I don't know. I don't think this was ever a picture, just the description. They describe her with a shotgun in one hand, holding her baby in the other hand. It's the same thing as the Huey Newton pose. But what they do is they put the woman there as the strength. So it's a woman replacing Newton. So it's the same picture. And I don't know if I ever saw that picture, but it's described. So they showed that. Interesting thing too is they had rented out a church. You see several of Fred's speeches. They're in this building, so they must have rented out an old church. But you see the crosses. Again, you're going to see the crosses in there. Now, this is some other stuff they put in there, and I've never heard this stuff. They say that Fred said a speech that killing pigs is a satisfaction. I've never heard this. That Fred said that when you kill pigs, you get satisfaction. I haven't found that on tape at all. I've never read that anywhere. Never. It's not in his book. I've never come across this. They say that Fred says that. Killing pigs, you get a satisfaction out of killing pigs. Never came across that. They do talk about the Panther supposedly killed in the 60s. They go over that. I talked about Jimmy Choo with the weather. We have the NAACP references. And again, as the way it ends is the shootout is great the way they show it. It's not quite the way it was done, though. It was actually done. Everybody was in uniforms. And you had two. So what you had is you had state police and you had local police. And you had two state police with Thompsons. And it's an old Chicago style house. Again, it's, the shotgun kind of houses. And it shows that Willie O'Keefe poisons Fred. Fred can't wake up. Fred gets shot while he's laying there. And they show that what Fred's his son's mother says, that Fred was alive. And she heard, they go exactly what she does say, that he was alive. And they said, looks like he's going to make it. And he gets shot in the head with a 45, which they showed when his family did autopsy that he did get shot in the head with a 45. But he was drugged to the point where he was out of it. She says that when the shooting started, he kind of looks up and he just falls out of it. He never wakes up. He never regains consciousness. So is it history for us? I can't really say it is. Now, because what it does is it even takes away the image of Fred. It's just like the Black Panther movie takes away the image of the Black Panthers. The same thing now, when young people think of Fred, they're going to think of this African cat, not this beautiful brother from Chicago that came from, I want to say that they came from Alabama. And so this is the kind of thing that kills, because young people see this. It was like the young dude that Sly put on his channel from down south when he was just giving references to seeing movies about the history. and maybe never studied Fred and how beautiful a man he really was. There's a point where he talks about he gives his life for the revolution, for the people, and his wife or his girl kind of gets mad about it. But that's standing on it. I mean, even if you read about Malcolm's last days, he says a lot of the same thing. He was standing on it. Now, was he an agent? I can't really say. Was this murder fake? Doesn't appear like it. I mean, there's similarities in all this. And that's my thing, is they won't put Fred in their mind. They're going to put the African in their mind. So, all right, what did I miss? Let me see. Welcome, everybody. Let me catch up on these. Okay, I'm not too far. Strong discernment, what's happening? Did you see the rigged Lakers game? I did watch it, and they was down by 20 and came back and won. Hey, Preston. Corey Feldman looks like Sheen too. Oh, man, that is really funny. What's going on? Read my soul. Thank you for joining me, Jay. No, Hoover wasn't white. Hoover was not white. Look at them pictures of him young. He got the waves and everything. No, Hoover was not European. Hoover's from Mississippi, and they found his family. People that have done research now that Hoover's been dead, they've done the research, and you can see the black Hoovers down there. So no, he was not. He's not a European. I'm upset to get Guy in the new Chad. Get out. What? I'm upset to get out Guy. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yep. I don't know SD about that. It could be. Like he was a character too. And so, is it informative? Somewhat. I just hate. See, this is what you get off. See, the Panthers there was really no instances where the Panthers was the aggressor as far as shootings. It was all defensive shootings. But when you watch this and you watch the other movie, you see the opposite. Because the lie of the government is when they talk about the Panthers, they talk about anti-European that was shooting at the police officers. And there was never that instance. They were never the aggressors. They were always shooting back in a defensive posture. The very few times they did shoot back. That people went in depth about that in the first movie. And then here they do it again to justify their murder of all the Panthers. Let me tell you, Ebony Magazine at one time, they did something cool in sports. They would always put the brothers that played on all the different sports teams, the different seasons. They also did an article one time that showed all the Panthers that was dead. I think it was 2 or 3 pages worth of Panthers that had got killed. 30, 40 people. And this was an Ebony. And Ebony is the kind of magazine that was kind of really a Negro magazine, not telling the full truth, but they showed them all. And it was something like 30, 40 people. And that's not coincidence. That's going after people, killing people. And that's part of the lie of their history, that they were a violent gun toting. The guns were in response. What did it say? The hate that hate produced. The guns were in response, just like the hate that hate produced movie tried to show the Muslims. They were never an organization going after the police like that, and neither were the Panthers. Yes, they defended themselves, but you have to look at how the sheriffs in Oakland, Richland, LA, they recruited heavily in the South because they felt they could get more biased people. And that's sad that all that violence is in there. It makes you think that the Panthers were violent when in fact they were defensive. A lot of the pig talk was rhetoric, because that's all they really could use against the police was rhetoric. And Pig went through the war movements. No, don't forget that. He went through the anti-war papers and stuff, called them pigs as well. So Hoover looks white to me. Oh, of course, he passed. Do you know how many people passed? I have a relative. Let me tell you. I have a relative that would have been my great uncle. Yeah, he'd have been my great uncle. Went to the Navy in World War One and never came back to us. Never came back to us. Changed his name. We think he changed his name to Impy instead of Ampy. We think he changed his name to Impy because I know what happened. He went in the Navy, and because he looked like me, somebody looked at him and put European, and he rolled it all the way through. And he liked the extra privilege. He liked that privilege because in Michigan he was looked at. Again, the Indians was called, the Negroes. But he was able to go out, and they went by how he looked, and he was able to pass. And it broke his brother, my grandfather's heart. It really broke his heart. But it put something in him that he put in all of us. Be prideful of who you are. Be very prideful who you are. My mother's fairer than I am. And so she was that extra sister girl. Made sure, again, not knowing that the Black history was created in Europe, the back to Africa stuff. And so I got a lot of that as people a couple years older than me that are blind now and can't see, believe that Black to Africa stuff. Again, my cousin, his son is well off, was able to take his dad, who stopped taking his high blood pressure medicine, took him to that hot climate that probably didn't do his blood pressure any good. And then within weeks of coming back from Egypt, he has a stroke. And I mean a major stroke. He's been in a rest home for 2 years. During the COVID, his daughter, son couldn't see him. So love who you are. In the Black Panther, they made the American boy, they left. They made the American boy, they left the enemy. Also, Fred Hampton characters from England. Exactly. Now, he's African too, though. But yeah, he's from England, but he's African. I got accused of being Black, even though I am Pakistani and I'm light-skinned. Wow. Hey, J.R. Smooth. Again, yeah. I mean, it's funny. When I go to my MRI, they went by how I looked. It shows me as European on my MRI. I just kind of laugh. But that's a lot of times, even going into, I mentioned my great-grandfather. In one census is like in 19 or 20, they put him as European. 22, 24, whenever it came again. And then going into the 50s, all of a sudden he's Negro. And I mean, you could just see the difference because we got all this paperwork. And you can just see the difference where people would just go in there. Matter of fact, you could see where they marked European and somebody crossed it out and they would put mulatto. We even found that in our records. So this is kind of how they do it sometimes. They look at you. and it's funny. I've had people that I think they would mistake me, especially maybe times when I didn't get as tanned. I'm tanner as I'm older. But it's like, yeah, they would talk all this European shit, and I would just kind of laugh. I would just kind of laugh to myself. Like, you feel pretty comfortable, buddy. All right, let me give the divination out. We have 13 batoons, 0 contunes, 8 tunes. We have 4 uno, and we are on 16 kin. And 16 kin would be, I can't turn the pages. 16 kin would be Gib. Cosmic force, ability to connect and communicate with galactic consciousness. And the energy is from the south. And this is one of my favorite Mayan fractals. Gib. So do you see when they come up with English, how they use some of this? Because it was already in the Americas. They use some of the symbols because it was already there. And so in the Toltec, it is called vulture. In this card, under the head of a vulture, we see the ascetic pronouncing words of power. This means speech. That means speech. And this is how you see the codex. The codex, when they show speech, they show that. See it kind of copied in comic books. Words of power. He is seated on top of a pyramid because he is the voice of the divinity. In the upper left is the same as all other Tanalapi cards, as we see the number 16 at the Natal way of writing numbers. The vulture represents the beginning of a new cycle that will be nurtured by the remains of what was before. Its meaning is close to that of the companion symbol right in front of the vulture. In the calendar circle of Tanalapi, card number 6, death. Both cards relate to the process of death in the sense of renewal. The difference is while the death card means arrival of a new stage when the previous was ended, the vulture card means blooming of life coming from the remains of what used to be alive. Death is the growing that happens through letting go. Vulture is the growth of the incorporates the remains of what was. The end of the cycle brings some sorrow and grief, but now the vulture comes to transform the corpse that you saw with rejection and sadness, and into offering the new cycle you are entering. The vulture announces renewal. The loss of what you had may be painful for a period of time, but what has ended is not gone and forgotten. It is present in the new stage of your life in the form of the wisdom that you gain through the experience, relationship, businesses, project, or dreams of what you were immersed with. The wisdom will nurture your new experiences, contributing to the evolution of your life. The vulture teaches that from the ashes of what was, you should rescue the lessons of everything that you've learned, that your loss may turn into a gain. Don't let your heart sink. Be grateful of all that you have enjoyed and learned, even through the loss itself. The end of what used to be is just the beginning of a new stage, full of promise for new life and amazing possibility. The ignorant see the vulture as a sign of death. The wise see it as a sign of the renewal of life. As a vulture does, take the gifts that are left among the remains of what has died, and then use them, soar up to heights that you've never imagined. In what stage of the cycle of your life are you now? In the physical body, giving you signals of insufficient adaptation to the stage of your life. What are my minor or major problems of health? How should you respond to this? What changes should you make in order to move from uneasiness to health and happiness? So if anybody can use that, I hope you can. It even spoke a little bit to me of some things that I'm trying to do. So I share it to everyone instead of just holding that energy for me. And let's see. Here's an easy one. Is it going to be -0 tomorrow? To the right, yes. To the left, no. Is it going to be -0 tomorrow? Oh, easy one. An easy one. Can the people overcome the wickedness of the world? Can the people unite and overcome the wickedness of the world? To the right, yes. To the left, no. Better explanation. Well, maybe we got a chance, y'all. Maybe we have a chance. According to that, looks like we have a chance. Sebastian, thank you for joining me. I don't know, guys. I just feel things. I don't try to get credit for doing anything. I just do what was natural. No matter what. I don't I don't stop people's shadiness still if it's a chance to help them. It's like my neighbor is a drug addict and she just has constantly drug people at her house and she has autistic son in there. And I don't stop the chance for me to help that boy. So anytime I get a lot of sweets, I make sure he gets them. So I gave them a bunch of things. A lot of times he'll come up to me and say, do I have any eggs? If he's down there by himself because he trusts me. Give him a carton of eggs, tell him don't burn the house down. So I dropped them off some food because I know that to get to him and that he will eat something, because sometimes eating something, even if it's not nutritious, is better than being hungry. So I don't let her actions stop me from still trying to help her family. You help where you can help. Sure. Go ahead, shoot. Go ahead, Moray. It's got to be a kind of yes, no, though. But I do have the other pendulum book up here. But yeah, you can always ask a question. That's definitely. If you don't mind the response in front of everybody, please do. You can answer a question. Anybody else? I mean, why not? I'm not stingy, so please do. Please ask. I know it's a little delay between us, so go ahead and ask. I don't mind. Go ahead and ask. They don't make like you no more. They would be choosing to be this way. I don't know, man. I mean, again, it takes a long time to really get to a point. And in some ways, it's a burden, and it's a burden in the respect that people don't get it, and people get frustrated. I even get frustrated that people don't get it. But what I do is I accept that people are going to stay, and for a better word, use the Gnostic words, asleep, full of fog. The fog will never live for people. They just never see it. And the perfect example is these shots. I mean, people just don't see it. People really believe what they're being told. My mother was little. They got 2 or 3. They got the pox shot, the mump shot, something 2 or 3 shots. By the time I'm born, maybe 6. My 9-year-old had something like 20 some shots. I didn't know there was that many more diseases now, but it's not. It's to try to block all that, try to calcify all that. For each generation coming, they want them to be more asleep and more accepting. Is the great grand? Oh, okay. I think that's a pretty easy one. So Moray wants to know if his great grandfather is watching over him in the spirit world. So is Moray, who we take as a friend, is his great grandfather watching over him in the spirit world? To the right, yes. To the left, no. What do you feel? We need a little more clarification. Is it slightly, or do we get a strong indication that this is what he needs? So it looks like that is pretty positive. Looks like it is positive. As far as from the energy you're giving to me and the energy I'm giving back, it looks like that is the case. So I hope that is helpful. I hope that is helpful to you, because it seems like that energy is around you. It's like and I've told this story many times before. My grandmother was Pentecostal, which isn't really spiritual, it's religious. And it must have been 14 or 15, maybe 16 Mother's Day. I had my crystals. I would pray in my shower. So I had crystals, healing crystals, leopardolite I had in my shower. And so I was beginning to pray. And like I was saying before, with shadow work, sometimes you'll barely see it. And out of just nowhere, I could just see something fluttering. So as I had my eyes closed and I was praying, I just catch something just coming in. It's just coming in and it's coming in. And it was this black and white picture of my grandmother. I remember seeing the picture in a book. but it was like a picture of her showing me that even she is still kind of, her energy is still kind of looking over me. And it was just the love I gave her, she gave back to me. And she just showed me that she's in the right place. And it was Mother's Day that she gave me love. And so you never know. My grandfather, nothing spiritual about him at all. He was a stone cold, mean dude, alcoholic, might even kill the dude. His father took a rap that my grandfather and his father, my great grandfather, were gambling with a cat, and the cat ended up getting stabbed to death. And my great grandfather ended up taking the rap. And he later reneged. Well, he went to prison for it, and he didn't get life. He only got 4 or 5 years. But he later said it was my grandfather that stabbed him. So I don't know. My great grandfather was a spiritual man. He died and came back to life, and then finally passed away in a state of meditation. Interesting. I got a Himalayan salt lamp. It really cleans the air. Oh yeah. I don't know if you can see mine, but you can. If you look at me, you can see a little of that red. I've got one right here. I've got 2 in this room. Here in my dining room, I have one, and then I have a basket in the other room. When he came back to life, he woke up right before they're about to put him in the ground. Wow, that is interesting. Wow, that's some strong medicine too. That's a very good story, Moray. Wow. But that's that's not to say it's uncommon, but that shows strong, what they say, strong juju. That shows a strong person there. What is it called? The fluids. I can't think of what it's called, but the fluids that they pump into people when you die, they drain all your blood and they push fluids through you. Does anybody really know where that comes from? Embalming. Do you know why they embalm people? It comes from the Civil War. These were people just trying to make a business. And so what they were telling people, because before they would stuff people with sawdust so the families you at least had somewhat of a body. And so what the people did is the embalming people did is they would tell people that they could, if the person wasn't blown to bits, they could embalm them. So by the time they got back to whatever state they were from, they had a body to look at. And then you look at the politics that made embalming a normal practice. My mother says she doesn't remember this, but the first time when people used to die, you would keep the body in the house for a few days. You would clean the body. You would put in their favorite thing on them. You would put candy or their whatever they like to drink around them. And people would come see the body in that person's bedroom or that person wherever. And my mother doesn't remember this, but my uncle's wife's family was the first time I ever saw that. I don't know why I went with them, but I remember seeing that. We went in there, and one of the people had passed, and the family went to see that person in their room, which I think when they got sick, they kept them in the front room. I don't remember if that was her natural room. I don't know. But she was in the front room, and we visited her. This was her natural place. There was you didn't go to the funeral home, nothing like that. This person was at home. And that's how it used to be. We used to take care of the dead. We didn't let other people take care of the dead. Because when they go through all those chemicals and all those processes, what you're doing is being more locked spiritually. That's what another part of the embalming is. And just as our doors are 8-sided coffins, a coffin has 8 sides to lock you in. It is really another spiritual block. That's why they want you in that expensive coffin. Look at the cheap coffins. They're shaped a little differently. When you see just the pine coffins they'd show, old times, don't look like the expensive coffins. But the expensive coffins are another lock. It's another block to lock and block you. Cremation does something to you spiritually too, I've heard. Well, now, okay, you don't there. Okay, if you get buried without anything, again, animals will dig you up and start eating you, which is the thing. That is another reason why they want you kind of locked away so animals can't smell you and dig you up. Okay, we get that. Cremation has been done a long time. I can't say yay or nay that it's if you look at how you are born, and you are born again with a electricity. Again, when a man and woman get together, when either climax that causes the birth, there's with a man and the woman, there's electrical charge that's released by both. The woman attracting to her egg, the man shooting into the woman. If you didn't have the fire spirit, that would never really happen. It is a type of electrical impulse between the two of you. Love. There's a fire thing in love. That's why they show the arrow through the heart, because there's a fire part about love and passion. Amore, eros. And so cremation is just it's putting you back with the fire spirit. It's not necessarily a I know some people think it kills your spirit without the body, but I disagree. Because again, you are an energy fragment, and being put in a fire on a body, you've already left that body. It's like when you leave your body, you're always together with a silver cord. When you wear silver, it makes that connection stronger. It's just a fact. So when you die, that cord is severed. That cord is severed. So if they bury you or burn you, you are already on your way. You are not with that body. You're not hovering. Your use for it is all gone. So what they do to it really doesn't matter. I disagree. People say you can't be spiritual with the body gone. I disagree with that because, again, your energy fragment, your wave harmonic has already moved on. It ain't sitting there. Some cases, it sits there for a little while. And I'll say this. My cousin died very sadly, and I won't get into the whole story. But I remember at the funeral, his energy came through as a wind and touched everybody that was at them putting him in the ground. So that can happen. He was still kind of there loving everybody, and he just as a wind and touched everybody for celebrating him. So my father says he wants to be cremated and then put into an ocean. Again, that's beautiful. There are ex-football players that have asked to be put on certain fields. And that's what they've done. There have been people to say, put me in the woods. Put me near my favorite tree, favorite park, favorite mountain, favorite hill. So yeah, some people live on a lake. They say, put me in the lake. If you do not need to be in the flesh, the spirit lives out. Again, your energy fragment does live forever. That's the true freedom. That's the true free will. The free willing is that when you do pass, you have the right to start your own. It goes back to the old saying. Every person wants to be a planet. Every planet wants to be a universe. And that's what you have the opportunity to be. It's just like when as Mu went from wherever it came from. She was able to use her free will to move through the universe, and she found her own place. Didn't need a sun, didn't need any of that. She brought her lover to water, and then their best friends, the air and the water. And then we see the birth of the land. Personally, I want to be cremated. My family's against it. Well, it'd be up to you. If you write a living will, it would be up to you, not them. It would be up to you if you write a living will. Won't be up to them. It'll be up to you. Because a lot of times that's for other people too. All that is for other people. I've known people that the families have went in debt over burying somebody. If those of you know a little bit of Black history, Medgar Evers, for that dude who killed him's trial, they redug him up. So that old cat, they didn't put him in jail, mistrial. They didn't put him in jail till he was about 80, about to die. Then they finally put him in jail. There's a movie all about it. Guy lived his whole life, and when he got old, then they said he was guilty and put him in jail. My point about bringing up Medgar Evers is during one of those trials, they dug him up. They dug him up 50 some years later, opened up his casket, looked the same as when they put him in there. Again, he was ex-military. If you guys don't know, Medgar Evers was in World War II, and Medgar Evers was also a lawyer. So he had a military burial. So the military paid for one of those good caskets. Didn't look any different. But that's a lock. Again, that's a lock. No deterioration or anything. Put me in a blunt and smoke me. It's funny. It's funny you said that. Read my soul. My cousin I was just talking about that had the major stroke used to say that to me when I was like 19, 20. He was like, yeah, when you die, they're gonna roll you up in a joint. And they're gonna smoke you. My son that was on here last week, he was like, they're going to put me on the cross and call me Jesus. Jesus. They're going to call me Jesus. And that's the thing is, it's being spiritual is, again, you have to read the crowd. You don't beat anybody over the head. People ask me, I answer them. But I don't, like my mother and I get it, and I get on her. She buys a lot of what's going on. It was like the Trump thing. She couldn't get over hate. And it was like Sister Girl, and Biden was the new hope, not knowing that looking at these people's politics, and these people's politics are communism, because liberalism is communism. I mean, it just is. It's like socialism. And remember that socialism shit was Obama. He was all about being a socialist. But our system is kind of intermingled. Again, 40-hour, 8-hour workday is a socialist idea. Just like I was talking about last night, I was watching some right before World War II, in the early 1900s up till World War I. People generally worked 18-hour days. You got to go to sleep 5 or 6 hours, and you had to go do it again. And remember, the women wouldn't work, but damn if the children weren't in them factories. So the father, and more than likely the boys, would go work 18 hours a day. And this is something that the unions, and union, again, that is a communist idea, a socialist idea of a union, somebody to bargain for the people. The people gather together, and you get a voice to bargain with the management. That's socialism. But this is what they did to people. They almost worked people to death. Again, people worked in coal mines under certain conditions. They knew you would get black lung. They knew they would kill people, and they were just killing a group of people. They'd force more people, especially during Reconstruction when they were forcing people. People were living like 6-7 months, and then they would bring a whole new crew in, working them to death. When the Spanish discovered gold in Mexico, working the people to death. People not seeing hardly any daylight. Candles working, that was what their life was, working themselves to death in them little holes, looking for silver for other people. Military, police, fire department, government is a socialist program all over. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. It is part of it. It is part of it. Again, a free system, you police yourself. That's a free system, is you police yourself. You take care of the same thing. Everybody's trained to put away fires. When you had wooden houses, it was a natural, common thing to say, hey, we might have to put these fuckers out. We need to train to do it in a faster manner, to put wooden houses. That's why Chicago, you don't see wooden houses in Chicago. You see brick houses, because it was actually against the law after the Chicago fire, which was started on purpose, burning people out. It started on purpose. They want to tell you that a cow kicked over a bucket that burned the whole city down. No, that fire was done on purpose. So, but this is the life we live in, everyone. This is the life we live. And we just have to do our best. I know someone had asked me, was a strong discernment, had asked me, is there anything spiritually we can do? Again, you work on ourselves. You see through the illusion, read the crowd, and you work on yourself. You work on your own spirituality. One thing that I use, and I train myself now, because if they do give me dementia or Alzheimer's, I know where I can go. I know what would be free for me. Again, we all get a continuous ball field. You can create anything in there. If anything comes in there and tries to get you, yeah, good luck, because that's yours. But we're all given that. And so I practice that now. So if they take this away from me, I know I'll go there. My higher self will grab my lower self's hand and push me across. But you have to practice this. You have to create all this. And that's one thing in the Americas we are given. Because magic is real. No, magic is real. Because a lot of nature is full of magic. If you look at a tree and the way the tree communicates with the fungus, the tree depends on the fungus, and the fungus depends on the tree. That's why trees, like watch how they grow trees. Trees are most successful when they're grown or planted with other trees. So that's why if you look to see between the fields, you see the boundaries. They'll put the same type of trees. And keep in mind, we don't see, the only big trees are out west. They've cut down almost all the big trees. I watched a film one time that showed the deforestation of America. And the Europeans went across America like a locust. This was once one of the most greenest places on earth. You know, now they say that the Amazon was the world's lungs. Well, at one time, the world's lungs could have been in America, because it was nothing but tree land. Nothing but tree land. And the people that lived here, now PNF says one thing that's true. There were cities in America. When the woodland people, they had cities. The teepee people are the people that came much later, in the late 1700s and early 1800s. They're the ones that followed the buffalo. Again, people traveled all over the world. And so when those group of people went into the plains, they followed the buffalo. They built temporary shelters, just like they had always done. Now, that land bridge shit is a lie. That's a lie. There was a natural, when the land was together, there were natural connections to the world where people always traveled. Turtle Gang really breaks that down beautifully. So there was never some ice bridge and the people just was like, where we live is so fucked up. We need to find someplace else. No, that wasn't the case. The case was people around the world always moved around the world. That's why the shorter route to Europe was preferred. I'm even having doubts that Columbus didn't take that route. Iceland, Greenland, down the coast of America, down the coast, and into the islands. For the technology, much easier trip. And like I told PNF, yeah, like I told him, Vikings was not a people Like you watch that shit on History Channel and they show the Vikings being the blonde-eyed, blue-haired people. No, no, that's a lie. Vikings, Viking was a culture. It was a culture, not individual people. They try to make you think. Being a Viking was people that practiced a culture. So you had a lot of different people practicing this. And of course, they try to lie to you to not take away their significance. Jaguars fire strength. Jaguars fire strength coach they had just hired. What are your thoughts? Tariq, I don't know. That guy had got fired from the other place, remember? And so when they picked him up, they knew they was going to catch flack. So they fired him. Okay. They just gave him the job Monday. They probably just gave that cat the job Monday. So that used to work out. What was your maximum squat, deadlift, and bench press? Well, when you go into to camp, you have to be able to do 225 at least 10 times. So I could do 225 probably 15 times when I was in my early 20s. Squat, I could probably squat 600 pounds. I mean, my legs were really strong. Deadlift, trying to think what we did. Don't remember. Don't really remember on the deadlift. 200 and some pounds, probably. Trying to think of. Yeah, about probably 200, 225 too for deadlift. But I could squat quite a bit. You guys ever seen a dude do 800-pound squats where the bar bends? It's like we put almost all the weights we had in the weight room. And guy, rest in peace, Hammerhead Pete, he was able to squat like 8, and it's like the bar gives and it bends on his back. So I could squat quite a bit. But I did quite a other things. I could do 600 pounds, but I wouldn't do it all because I was taking classes and the classes was kind of against it. They was really against doing a lot of squats. So I would kind of not do it. I would like get out of doing squats. I would just wouldn't do them because they were saying that squats hurt your ligaments. And so that was my training. And so I would kind of shy away from doing squats. Again, I could max quite a bit just because my legs were quite strong. I had very strong legs, but I wouldn't do it. When we was like, before we had to max out, I wouldn't do squats just because of that. I would do toe rises as squats, but the information I had got, and I like my son does them, and he's like, no, it doesn't hurt your ligaments. But when I was taking PE classes and stuff, that's what they were saying in the 80s. The squats wasn't good for your ligaments. So, yeah. But, yeah, I could probably – my maximum on bench was probably 250, 260. Again, I played receiver. But I could do 225 15 times at one point in my life. And that's really what they go by. When you go into camps and they test you, they want to see how many times you can do 225. So, and we used to do the Roman sit-ups. We would start with because a Roman sit-up again, it's really strengthening your hip flexors, but you're sitting on a bench kind of, and you lock your feet in and you just go straight back. And so we would take the 25-pound weights and put them behind our heads, and so you're nothing but. And then we would do the big 25 plate and hold that behind our heads. And you talking about getting that tight. I remember one of my teachers saying, no, that's not working on your stomach. It's working on your hip flexors. It works on your stomach a lot too, because you're going straight back with nothing, but you're coming up with that extra weight. So I don't know if I was strong, just worked out. That was like my best friend, P Funk, is in the Guinness Book of World Records for bench pressing. So yeah, these cats I forget how much he did, but these cats, yeah, what I did was nothing compared to a lot of these dudes that I went to school with. A lot of those cats was really strong. I mean, them dudes could do it 20 or 30 times at 225. So what I did as a receiver was nothing compared to what some dudes I played with. I was a basketball player body. I just knew that to take hits, I had to get stronger. So I learned that to take the hits, you got to be stronger. Do you think you ever played in fixed games? I've talked about that many times. To give you an example, we was playing Tennessee State. Big John Meredith was the coach. Richard Dent, if anybody remembers that name, he's in the Hall of Fame. But I played against Richard Dent 3 times from Tennessee State. We scored 2 touchdowns they called back. So they used the refs to fix that game. We played in some other games, and I don't understand why we kept blitzing. We played 3 deep, which was always man all across. Linebackers going to be on a flanker. I never understood why we just kept blitzing, leaving 3 deep. We played South Carolina State when I was a freshman, and one of my friends got beat 3 times. Charlie Brown, that later played for the Redskins, caught 3 touchdowns on him. Man for man, blitzing. That made me, I didn't understand that. I watched that defense, the defensive coach always trying to blitz, always leaving our DBs. Again, we played 4 linebackers. That means you got 3 people back there. You got a strong safety, but you mostly 3 deep. And I never understood that, why he kept blitzing and leaving people man to man. So I know they bet on our games. I don't remember being a national bet. And that seems to be what we see is a national games. Well, no, let me take that back. National betting. I don't remember seeing anything more than local betting. But those games made me wonder, really made me wonder. We wouldn't pass, be running the damn veer, running the ball up the middle, and there was nothing there. It's like the last game I played in college was against Howard, and the running was nothing. And the coach kept running. So it just made me wonder, it's like, why do we continue? It was like we did the game plan of passing on them because we saw how weak their secondary was. We play the game. Our fullback needed to break a school record. The fullback needed 100 and some yards. And they were stacked to stop the run. And the coach just kept running the damn ball. And I remember the dude laughing. The dude was like, Soul Train ended up with maybe 60 yards. He needed 100 and some to set the school record for rushing, and he got something like 60 yards. I didn't understand why we didn't pass. I caught a pass that game, matter of fact, but I didn't understand why we didn't push the ball downfield on them. 5 times 24-year-old Jeopardy champion passes from COVID after receiving the vaccine. They're reporting. I've noticed that they are reporting many deaths died of COVID after receiving it. Of course, I read the thing about okay. Let me see. Let me find this. Might not be on this page though. It might be on my other page. Well, we had the sister that was the doctor, and then she blamed the Europeans for not helping her. Yeah, it's on the other page. It is on the other page. Oh, let me bring this up. Yeah, again, I mentioned this. Japan has to throw away million of Pfizer shots because they didn't get the special plunger. Is that believable? But this sister died. And I might have read this the other night, maybe not. But this is how they try to tear down the people that died from these things. So you guys can look this up. Yeah. So right here it says Gloucester, Gloucester, Gloucester. Grandmother dies within hours of getting it. She died within hours. Now, my mother put, looks, because she was overweight, she had diabetes. She did have these underlying conditions. But again, this woman was fine. Because of her job, they kind of pushed this woman to the front. And so the woman receives everything. Okay, she had diabetes, sleep apnea, and she was overweight. Her job made her eligible to get the first dose. She got the first dose, 15 minutes, mandatory observation. So she gets the dose. She was trying to get in her car and she kept proclaiming something is not right. And I read this the other night, but doctors later on told Jones her mother couldn't breathe and she started to vomit. They administered an EpiPen. EpiPen. Why the EpiPen? CPR, and they gave her oxygen. She was rushed to the hospital. Fluid had built up in her lungs. Now, you can't tell me that being overweight or having sleep apnea or diabetic is going to put fluid in her lungs. Again, there was no fluid in her lungs when she went there to get poked. So it calls it anaphylaxis, is a severe, adverse, life-threatening allergic reaction that rarely occurs after the poke. According to the CDC in the United States, as of January 19th, there were 35 cases of anaphylaxis with the Pfizer out of millions. So do you see how they try to belittle it? And my mother parroted this. Well, 1 million people got it and was okay, and only 45 people didn't make it. One is too many. Because you know what they try to say is, well, it did the majority. That's communism. That's communism. It's saying the majority is okay. So only a small number suffered. That is communism in its purest form. That's how communism works. Communism wants to take away individual achievement. But that's what it does in this case. So 45 people are one too many. And then you got the little elf saying, wear 2 masks. This shit is just like, it's just funny beyond funny. But it's, again, my own mother is defending Pfizer. So do you see the brainwashing? She's defending this company. Pfizer has the worst case history of harming people with their medicine. It is probably the #1 worst company that has had to pay out the most money for harming people. I was going it back and forth with one of my old friends that works there. And it looks good for him to defend where he works, because I know I could just tell by his answers he's trying to get brownie points for where he works. I ain't seen him come on no one say he got it. My brother, did you ever? We did. We would watch. I'll answer Spiroglyph's question. Yeah, we did. We would be sitting in the film study. Well, again, I didn't sit in the defensive film study room, but sometimes we would all watch films. The whole group would be watching film. They was trying to show something, and people would ask, "Why are we blitzing so much? Why are we playing?" The coaches would get real defensive about it. So, but I never knew one player that I came through, and I knew players at other teams in the SWAC and in the MEAC. And so I've never had conversations with anybody that said at our level that the games were like that. So my mother gets them every week. My brother catches. They've been in NYC the whole time doing great. Wow. Okay. I called her a few days ago and she was feeling crappy after the second one. Yeah. Well, my cousin that's my age, I don't know why she got it up in the DC area. And she said the same thing. She said the first one, she was okay. Apparently the second one, she got sick for that day. She was sick that day. And she said she felt like shit that day. And that's kind of what my doctor said, the same thing. She was sick for that day, took some medicine, and she was better the next day. But again, I say this. Why do we want to be around people that had that in them? I wonder if that makes it easier to spread by the people getting that. Something to think about. Didn't Pfizer black box Volks? Yeah, I think they did, T. Hey, MJ, thank you for joining me. And it's only getting worse. Do you wear masks in stores? Yeah, that ain't the fight. The mask ain't the fight. Talked about the plastic mask I wear. I wear the plastic face mask. That ain't the fight. The fight ain't the mask. That ain't the fight. Matter of fact, I saw a brother, and I think the brother thought that I was checking him out because he wasn't wearing a mask. And I liked his coat. And I was like, man, because I like kept checking it out when he went by me. I was like, damn, that coat is really nice, bro. I got to talking to him. And it wasn't that he wasn't wearing a mask, but yeah, I wear a mask because that's not the fight. People own these businesses, they can ask you whatever. Like what do they say? What do Fast Time and Ridgemont High say? No shirt, no shoes, no service. You can't go in there without a shirt. It's the same thing. It's their business. So that to me ain't the fight. That ain't the fight to me. There's a bigger fight than the mask. So I don't mind wearing that shit. I am in healthcare, not taking the vaccine. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm not taking it either. I don't know. And that's when they would have passive for people who got it. I will tell you this. They can't be world tour if they leave. I'll tell you what happened here locally. And I just caught this on the news. So I'll say this again. The best hospital in the world is down in Mayo. And I have no connection to Mayo. But if you look as a research hospital, they are the best in the country. This is how it goes. The best hospital in Michigan is at the U of M. I don't know how high I even want to say about Johns Hopkins because they got the fake numbers. So to me, it's U of M and it's Mayo. But if most people have problems around the country, they send you to Mayo. They can't figure your shit out. Remember, I was talking the other night about a lady that she takes pictures every day of herself, selfies. She was fighting cancer. They sent her to Mayo. When my uncle was alive and was fighting cancer, every August he would stay with my mother for a couple of days because we're about 50 minutes from Rochester. Rochester is a city just of Mayo, basically. My daughter's mother, that's where she grew up. Her father, my daughter's grandfather, was a pharmacist down in Mayo. And so that's where my uncle went. They sent everybody. My boys have a cousin that had an eating disorder. He spends weeks almost every year at Mayo. That's where they send you. So to get into my story why I bring up Mayo. So this couple flies to Hawaii. All right. They fly to Hawaii. Hawaii will not accept the Mayo. They had the COVID test done at Mayo. Hawaii says that's somebody that they don't consider honest or a partner with this thing. They reject the best hospital in the world's test. The best hospital in the world, they reject those tests. So one girl, the wife goes to Walgreens, sits in her car, they give her the test. The husband has to fly back to LA, which is something like a 3 or 4 hour flight. I think it's a 3-hour flight it might even be longer, from Hawaii to LA. He has to fly back to LA to the airport. Now, again, they've been tested negative at the best hospital in the world. Hawaii doesn't accept it, won't let them come into the country. Flies back to LA to go to the airport. He gets his test in the airport. Flies back to Hawaii, then they let him in. Harassing these people. They can't be I tell staff I got asthma and they leave me alone about the, I mean, all you here in this state, long as you have a letter, they leave you alone. But they do require you to show the letter. But if you have the letter, they leave you alone. Hey, Greg, thank you for joining me. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and Mayo specializes. Okay. Yeah, it's not uncommon. This is the state to get sick. I'll say that. This is the state to get sick. I mean, the sad thing, and I'm not going to tell all her business, but my daughter's mother was blown up. She was literally blown up as a child, and she spent probably, what did she say, the first 4 or 5 years of her life she spent in Mayo almost daily for 4 or 5 years. Her and her sister were burned severely. They practically lived in Mayo. I mean, they lived in Rochester, but after this happened to them, she practically spent her first 4 or 5 years of her life at the hospital because of being, her burns were so severe. So this is a great state to get sick. They got some people, and this is a kind of a thing. People, when you get new doctors, most of the doctors are Mayo trained. Matter of fact, at the University of Minnesota, where my rheumatologist is, almost all that part of the University of Minnesota is another arm of Mayo. It's an arm of Mayo, and most doctors you see are Mayo trained here in the state. That's when you pick a new doctor, you'll see in their thing that they're Mayo trained, and that's what I've noticed is a lot of them tell you that too. Well, I did my fellowship at Mayo. That's wow. Well, MJ, if you ever have to go, let me know. You can say you have a medical condition and they can't ask you what it is, so the mask is easy to get around. Good one. That's a good point. That is a good point. That would oversee the letters. That would, because you're right. It's confidentiality. You don't have to reveal your medical condition. It's against the law for them to really ask. That's a good point. That's a damn good point. I hadn't thought about that. But that's what's required here. And sometimes I wear the plastic mask, sometimes the little thing around my neck, and just pull it up like I'm about to rob the damn place. But most of the time I wear the plastic. Like if I go out to the Mall of America and it's all that walking, I definitely wear the plastic mask. I don't wear the other one. And again, if you have the medical condition, yeah, you can throw that to them and they'll leave you alone. They will leave you alone. But I'm just saying, as a protest, that's not the fight. It's a lot of other fights other than that. I say no, thank you. I call for medical reasons and keep pushing. I don't wear one. I can dig it. I can dig it. Yeah, I can dig it because it is obey. It's the same thing as Rodney Piper with the glasses. It's obey, and that's why they do it. It has nothing to do with stopping you or someone else from making you sick. Nick Taylor showed those that have subscribed to Brother Nick. He puts on there and shows you the box of the doctor mask that say right there on it, it will not stop you from getting shit. It's not going to stop you. The mask aren't going to stop you. If people are making them out of t-shirts, they're not. What's the point of them other than you obeying? And it's sad to see the children. Matter of fact, they passed. Man, let me see if I can find this email. So the parents tried to fight these people about wearing masks during sports. Let me see. They came down with a court decision today. No, it's got to be in my other one. Yeah, right here. Where's it at? Is this it? No, it's not this one. There was another one they sent me that had the decision. I can't find it now. Yeah, somewhere in here. But they gave a decision that said they still going to make them play sports. And I think I read the thing that the amount of people that have already passed out, and some of the people trying to play sports wearing that shit went to the hospital, had to be revived. The issue is wearing all day. Immune system breaks down. Yeah, and that's why they want the children to wear it all day, because it does break down your immune system. And if you have any breathing problems already, it is going to hamper you. So this causes a greater problem. I know my beard is always wet. Always. Like I wear my plastic mask, my beard always is wet. because again, that breathing creates perspiration. And I'm not a great fan of Dr. Sebi. I don't think he was what he portrayed himself to be. But one thing that he said was right is mucus. The key to a lot of this shit is mucus. And if you don't think a mask builds up mucus, well, you must not be alive, because wearing it for a few minutes builds up mucus. So I'm not wearing it. The government can fuck itself. There you go. There you go. I can't blame you there. There you go. And it's obey. That is what they're doing. Obey. Because if it was natural and it was organic, we would have wore ventilators in the very beginning. So how are you going to say something is a worldwide thing? It's a worldwide thing, and the first thing you don't do it from the beginning. You would think that when it first was exposed to America, they would tell everybody to wear ventilators. It's not what they did they? Look how long they waited to say wear the mask. And then a year later, Biden comes in and says, I want everywhere to wear masks, like a dictator. And they want to tell you that Trump was a dictator. Biden comes in and dictates. And again, if you look at the politics, the Democrats benefited from this disease. It put them in office all over the country, made them get to Congress, and made them tie the Senate. And very little people are pointing this out. Let's be honest. Without this, they had no chance. The Democrats had no chance of winning without this. So they definitely benefited from this. And if you look at it politically, it has to be a political ploy because it put them in office. It put their communist agenda to go. My grandmother cussed me out because I didn't want to wear it in the house. In the house? Wow. Pollen all of a sudden is horrible past 2 days. It's no pollen up here. It's too damn cold. Wow. Dairy products and soy products create mucus. There you go, read my soul. Masks are just, whoa. Oh, there we go. Yes, masks are just communism. That's all it is. Spiroglyph says that. None of us should be wearing it. I agree. Shawnee. Yeah, it is some truth in that. The whole thing is fear, creating a problem, seeing your reaction, then giving you the solution. Yeah, read my soul. Nat Trio Queen. My grandma told me we weren't allowed to hug. Yeah, I told that story before. When this thing first hit last year, around this time when this thing first hit, I went to see my mother on her birthday almost a year ago. Remember what they was telling young people? They was telling young people that you might give it to old people, even though young people don't get it, that you can give it to old people. This was the propaganda. And so we go see my mother on her birthday, and my son and I hug her. My daughter hangs back because she's hearing this propaganda about young people can give it to old. And I could just see the wheels turning in her head. I could just see it, that she was like, she didn't know what to do. And then finally she came near and then she hugged my mother. But I hugged my mother today. Like, not going to not hug my mother. Because we as humans, we need human touch. Again, look at the studies about babies born in Russia. And these babies aren't picked up and how they turn out. It's a whole study you can watch on children that are not picked up as babies because they're in these orphanages. And then after World War II, it was so many babies that this was almost a whole generation that their first year of life, they were hardly picked up at all. And it goes through how they turned out. Matter of fact, they start having convulsions. A baby that is not picked up after so many periods, does not have that human contact, they'll start having convulsions with nothing wrong with the child. It will start convulsing because it didn't have this human touch. Let me see. Missed this one. Sorry. Did I miss two?
Scientists only say it is actually a bacteria that blocks blood ways, and that's why you can't breathe. It can be killed if it truly is bacteria. Yeah, it's crazy. They won't listen to us, but listen to MSM. Yeah, that's true. If we put all the masks down, everybody would see how fake this is. I agree. It's like what happened last spring. Look at what they did to our people last spring. Soon as it got nice, everybody's outside, everybody's hooping. This is where Karens are created to see. Would the Karens tell on people? Too many. That's Gestapo. That's a Gestapo tactic when you start telling on each other. And that's what they were purposely creating. They were purposely creating something that the Nazis did, or the National Socialists. Nazis is a Jewish faith word. They created that word. But the National Socialists depended on people telling on each other. Hylian dialect. Not that they're saying black people get it more and they will have the hardest recovery. Well, but they're also telling black folks that they can't get it. That rich people is jumping over you. If you got a good job, they're jumping over you because they want you to want it. Well, why aren't we getting it? That they want to show that it's a scarcity of this shit, and it's not scarce. It's not. It's funny. My rheumatologist said, "Do you feel comfortable taking it?" Because I'm her only melanated. She told me. She said, "I'm her only melanated patient. I was the first one she ever had. So there's some things in my blood where they're a little different than Europeans. So she has to write that down." But she said, "Are you comfortable taking it?" I'm going to tell them what they want to hear. But it's funny. My main doctor, been my doctor for almost 10 years. She said the same thing. I suggest that you get it. And I play dumb. I play dumb. My granny is 90 and fear changed her whole world. That's sad. That's sad. That's sad. But believe in them. Believe in them. They got kids thinking they can kill their own grandparents. Exactly. The fact they require, even though they got the vaccine, exactly. What is it for? What is the vaccine for? And they're already saying the vaccine will not stop you from spreading it. That's what they're saying. If it's real, that you can get this shit, but it ain't. I mean, that's the stupid thing of it. If you get it, it's supposed to be the one-stop shop. But they're already telling you it's not. Creating division and getting right back to the agenda. There you go. There you go. No, I will not get it. I will not get it. This is what they told me. Because, again, I've taken the shingle stuff. Because I talked about that last night. The odds of me getting shingles is very high. And it is extremely painful. I take concentrics because I have a disease that attacks my ligaments. And pain, I'm going to say this. People that live with pain think it's normal. I mean, really, pain becomes normal. And there are things that can relieve your pain. It's like with my thumbs just ache. So I started taking gabapentin, and gabapentin made my thumbs not hurt. When I started taking that, whatever I just said, that shit. See, some shit with the C. This is what she told me. Check this out. She said, and I think I said this last night. My doctor told me, she said, concentrics. She said, if you get the second poke, don't take your concentric for a couple weeks. And she kind of said, because we really don't know what would happen. Because again, this shit fucks with the immune system. So why would I take that? Already knowing my immune system is lowered. So why would I take that? And that's kind of what she was telling me. She was like, wait to take that. If you take it, wait to take that. But the kicker, and when they kicked me off and erased my other channel was, I said this and I say it again. She said that what she got, I won't get. That's exactly what she told me. She said the vaccine she got, I would not get. So that's telling you right there, what she's getting is better than what I could get. But it didn't make me want the shit at all. It didn't make me want the shit. It was like, well, damn, I really need it now. Pain becomes normal. And it's you suffer. You really suffer. Like now it's cold. Walking, my repaired Achilles is just it's like it won't get loose because of this cold. I've said before, breathing in cold like this with asthma, it is like a hand is just on when you get out and it's really, really cold. Like if I go outside now, where it's minus 18 or some wind chill, the cold constricts your lungs. And with asthma, it constricts it even more. And so that's bothers me more than the cold than anything, is that just the pressure because of the cold. It's beyond terrible. They still require people to wear them after getting it. Yep, I'm never going to understand that. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, Preston. Everything for me to stay calm. There you go. I would only get it because I do not fear it. I never get the flu. I am never sick, so I stay away from the doctor's office. My medical history shows that. And I'll say this, I don't get sick. I have not been sick since Keelan is 18. Yeah, it's been 18 years. I got strep. I remember waking up. It must have been the Christmas. When did the first Xbox came out? Because my son, that's what he got for Christmas. So Keelan was born in 02. Yeah, so this must have been 02. I have not been sick since 02. Now I get little colds. I noticed when Natalie was a baby, if she would get a cold, she'd tend to spread it to me. But being sick, now I've gotten hurt. Don't take me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I've been hurt. I've been hurt a lot. These surgeries and shit, I've been hurt. But if I were sick, I don't get sick either. The last 40 years, I've been sick 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And that's a good point and see, if you take it, that's another thing. If you do get it, it was like my friend was saying with the old man with the cigars that smoked cigars. He 110 years old. He smoked 3-4 cigars a day. He enjoyed them. He didn't fear the cigars. He didn't fear the cigars. So they didn't affect him. Same with cigarettes. If you don't fear the cigarettes, you ain't going to get the cancer or the lung cancer because you don't fear it. You just enjoy them. Kind of works like that for some people. Because remember, everybody don't get cancer that smokes. It ain't everybody that gets cancer that smokes cigarettes. There are people who live their whole life smoking cigarettes and don't have any kind of problems. How is that? All the chemicals in cigarettes. But there are people that smoke their whole life and do not die from cigarettes. And that's a good way, read my soul. That's a good way to look at it. If you do get it, don't be fearful. That's like me and concentrics, me taking the damn shingle shit. Because my aunt has nerve damage. Well, she just passed a couple months ago, but she had nerve damage in her face. And I've known people that suffered from that shit. And I had chickenpox as a child. So the odds of me getting it, I just would rather, I don't fear the shit again. I don't fear the shit one way or another. Whenever they want to take me out, Jimi Hendrix said, well, how did he put it? I'm the one that's got to die when it's time for me to die. I'm the one. So I don't fear death. I don't fear death. I don't fear death at all. What do you say in Star Wars? It's only going to make me stronger. So is HIV and AIDS. Is DNA a weapon? Ooh, you jumped. We know not everyone can contact the virus. I think everything is, yeah, it is. It's shown that you can scrape some shit outside and it'll come back and test positive. But all biz, you're right. Fauci was over that. Fauci was over that. Matter of fact, when it first came out, it's a basketball player named Jason Williams that later shot his limousine driver. His sister had it, and they had her. Think about it. The original people, the first cases of HIV or whatever it was in New York, These people was isolated. I mean, really isolated, with the doctors having suits on, sterile rooms. So does that sound like some sex virus or intravenous drug user? That's some other shit them people had. You can't tell me that they didn't know that much about it, that these people had to be fully radiation like suits dealing with the patients. Them first patients had something else. They called it that, but they had something else. And again, Reagan was president. Look who attacked minorities, and it was meant to attack the gay population. It was meant to attack that, and that's who it attacked. It attacked. I don't think they really meant to spread it on intravenous users. I don't think when they created this, I don't think they thought it was going to spread as much through that as it did. Again, my ex-roommate was a junkie, and if you watch heroin addicts, say 3 people is all heroin addicts, they'll load up a shot. Now, some people, when they shoot heroin, they will, how do they do it? Oh, they would shoot the heroin in, they would do the plunger back, and they would shoot it in again. But normally when addicts did it, they would, like somebody would fill it up to so much, the first person would take a shot, they would hand it to the next person would take a shot, they would hand it to the next person. That's how junkies used to do it. That was very common, because of the way it was never where everybody had their own needle. It was just that was the practice, is my point. Was the practice was you fill up a load and everybody just takes a little bit of it. That was very common, very common. I get about 5 or 6 hours. I got an early morning tomorrow. Matter of fact, I'm about to cut it down because I do got to get up early. But yeah, I only get about 5 or 6 hours. What I do now though is I take a late nap in the evening. I'll generally 5, 6 o'clock. I'll take a couple hours nap. But yeah, I don't get a whole bunch of sleep. I'm gonna be back up and at it early. So I get about 5 or 6 hours sleep a night. Not much. Not much at all. I don't get much sleep at all. This morning, trying to think, I didn't really have nothing to do today either. I didn't really have anything to do other than go shopping. And I had to go get this thing. I had to go get my Thanos brace. But yeah, I don't get 5 or 6 hours. I've never really required a whole bunch of sleep. Like my ex would say, alarm go off. Like my daughter's mother, she is the reset. What do you call it when you reset the alarm clock? The snooze button. She is the snooze button queen. That she gets up there, and I never understood that. Like I was gonna say, my ex said about me, no matter how much or how little, I would pop. That alarm goes off, I'm up like that. Like when my son had the flu, this 18-year-old, there's nights where I had to use healing. And granted, I had to use healing powers all night. And so I would stay with him and just use everything that I knew to break his fever. And I had to get up and be at work at 7. And I would break his fever like 4 or 5 in the morning, lay down for a couple hours and go to work. I mean, yeah. I work in DC and you don't hear of the homeless population getting it. There you go. Well, thank you. Another telling piece to the shenanigans. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they ain't trying to. And I told this story before. I know a family. Their brother went there in the fall just to get tested, and they killed him at the hospital downtown on Hennepin County Health. Killed this dude. They stuck that shit and broke that shit up in there and killed him. And he was, a little mental, but kind of homeless, but he went there just to get tested, and they killed him doing the test. And this is a fact. No COVID homeless areas in Tampa either. Yeah. Thank you, MJ. I am Tampa too. I don't wear. Okay. Yeah. And the people that wear them outside, I don't get that. The fuck you wear that shit outside for? one of my best friends growing up sent me a picture of all the fellows in Michigan. And I don't know if they was at a funeral or what they was at, but everybody's dressed in suits. So I'm taking it was probably a funeral. All of them is outside and all of them take the picture wearing the mask. They're wearing suits and they got them damn masks on outside. That's how brainwashed they are in Michigan. That's how brainwashed they are. They make them think they got to walk around with them outside. Up here, people don't walk around with them outside. I had a lot of fear when I was younger. Helped me figure it out. Well, thank you. Oh, that's right. Send some of that cold down to y'all. But I am going to end it now, guys. Thank you. I was going to go maybe another 15 minutes, but yeah, I got some shit to do in the morning. So again, thank you everyone for coming to my stream. I appreciate it. As I've said any time, I don't care if one person watches, doesn't matter. I try to bring it with as much energy, as much of my knowing as possible. I try to answer any and all questions. I don't run away from anything. And you don't have to agree with me or disagree with me. I will not attack you because you disagree with me, because it's all for debate. And debate is good because you can add to my knowing. Some dudes be streaming and people don't agree with them and they be wanting to attack them. And they got people that's with them that attack you. It's bullshit. You don't want yes people around you. You want thinkers. You want thinkers around you, because that's what helps you grow, is different opinions of thinkers. I hate yes men, but I love thinkers. And I see that people that check me out are thinkers. So again, this is, I ended with Esham's poem. And so his poem goes, I'm not a New York rapper or LA gangbanger. I'm just an old school Detroit crack slinger. And so this has been the Chocolate Mountain Show. Thank you, each and every one of you who watches this in the future. And thank you, everyone that's watching right now. I appreciate your input. I appreciate you watching. Stay smooth till we meet again.